All right, let's dive into some really interesting source material today. It's all about Jeff Bezos and that famous Amazon Day One philosophy. You hear the term thrown around a lot, but what's actually, you know, underneath it?
Well, at its core, day one seems driven by this almost intense fear of hitting day two.
Right. And day two, it's not just literally the next day on the calendar.
No, exactly. Bezos paints day two as stasis, getting stuck.
And that stasis, he argues, is the beginning of this line into irrelevance, then decline, and, well, eventually corporate death.
It's like corporate entropy, basically, a slow decay you have to actively, constantly fight against.
Yeah, the big insight there seems to be that the initial enemy isn't really the competition or even failure, it's just inertia, getting stuck in your ways.
And what's fascinating is how they propose to fight that inertia. The sources we looked at unpack what Bezos calls the starter pack against day two. Our mission here in this deep dive is really to tear into one specific part of that pack, the bias for action.
Okay, bias for action. Sounds simple enough, but it doesn't just, happen magically, especially not in a big company. It really needs a specific kind of supporting culture, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The sources talk about 4 key pillars for keeping that day one energy alive.
Exactly. Think of them as the foundation. First up, customer obsession. The core idea is that customers are always wonderfully dissatisfied. They always want something better, even if they can't quite articulate it.
So that dissatisfaction isn't a problem, it's an opportunity.
Precisely. It's a constant source for invention. Like Amazon Prime, nobody explicitly asked for that specific thing, right?
Right.
But it solved a deep, unvoiced customer need. That obsession becomes your North Star. It tells you where to direct that action.
Focus the energy outward. Makes sense. Okay,
Right.
what's pillar 2?
Second is resisting proxies. This one gets really important as companies grow bigger. There's this huge temptation to stop managing the actual outcome, like the real customer experience, and start managing through indirect measures, proxies.
Like focusing only on whether people followed the process instead of whether the process actually worked for the customer.
Exactly that. Or relying too much on abstract survey averages that kind of smooth over the real messy details. You can't let the process become the boss. You have to stay tethered to real results, real customer stories.
Don't confuse activity with achievement. Got it. Pillar 3.
Embracing external trends. Think about powerful waves like AI is right now or the internet was back then. You don't fight these big trends. You figure out how to ride them. Use them as tailwinds to, amplify what you're doing, lean in, experiment.
Use the future, don't just let it happen to you.
Okay.
And the last pillar, the engine driving day one.
That's high-velocity decision-making. This is crucial. Day two companies, they might make good decisions eventually, but day one companies, they need to make high-quality decisions quickly.
Which brings us right back to that core puzzle. How do you move fast without just, making a mess? The sources lay out a framework. It starts with sorting decisions. Type 1 versus type 2.
Yeah, this is absolutely key. Type 1 decisions are like one-way doors. They're super consequential, very hard, or maybe impossible to reverse. Think building a huge new fulfillment center or a major acquisition.
Okay, those definitely need slow, careful thought, deliberation.
Absolutely. But the source's stress is that most decisions aren't like that. Most are type 2, they're two-way doors. They're reversible. The cost to undo them is relatively low.
Like testing a new button color on a website, maybe. Or
Yeah.
rolling out a feature to a small beta group.
Exactly. And the big trap, the day two trap, is treating these easily reversible type 2 decisions as if they were irreversible type 1s. That's what causes the slowdown, the paralysis.
Okay, so if most decisions are reversible, two-way doors, how do you actually make them quickly? Is there a rule of thumb?
Well, that leads to the 70% rule. The idea is, for these type 2 decisions, you should probably act when you have about 70% of the information you wish you had.
70%. Not waiting for 90 or 100.
Right. Waiting for 90% or more, that's usually too slow. That's a day two move. The crucial thing here, though, is you have to be really good at spotting and correcting course quickly if a decision turns out to be wrong. Fast correction is part of the deal.
Interesting. That sounds a bit like Colin Powell's old 40-70 rule from the military, right? Decide when you have between 40 and 70% of the info.
It has definite echoes, yeah. But okay, what happens when you're trying to move fast and the team just doesn't agree on the path forward? Speed can create friction.
Yes. That brings us to disagree and commit. This is vital for keeping momentum.
The idea is, once a type 2 decision needs making, you encourage healthy debate beforehand. People should absolutely voice concerns, argue their points.
But once the decision is actually made by the leader,
Everyone gets behind it, fully, even if they initially disagreed. It's not about suppressing dissent. It's about valuing progress and alignment after the input phase. Bezos famously used it himself, apparently. Doubted a specific Prime Video series idea, but told the team, okay, I disagree and commit. Let's do it.
that takes a lot of trust both ways. But, okay, having this bias for action, even with these frameworks, doesn't it risk becoming just chaos? Like ready, fire, aim.
It absolutely could, yeah.
Wow.
Action needs structure, not just raw speed. That's a real danger. You need to think about things like the lean startup approach, build, measure, learn, an MVP, a minimum viable product. That's basically a type 2 decision put into practice.
So you build something small, test it, learn from it, iterate.
Exactly. That's calculated risk-taking, not just random flailing.
Okay, so calculated risk. What are the guardrails then to prevent that ready, fire, aim chaos? What do the sources say keeps it healthy?
Well, a few key things. You definitely need psychological safety. People have to feel safe suggesting these reversible experiments. And crucially, safe admitting when one doesn't work out so the learning can actually happen.
So failure is okay as long as it's a learning opportunity from a two-way door decision.
Right. You also need clear leadership setting the overall direction so the experiments aren't totally random. And maybe counterintuitively, you need to build in time for reflection. It can't just be constant frantic doing. A healthy bias for action ends up looking more like systematic experimentation, not just impulsive moves.
Okay, so pulling this all together, what does this mean for you, listening? This day one philosophy, it isn't just about being fast, not speed for speed's sake.
No, it's really about building a whole dynamic system, one that's deeply connected to customer reality, actively resists getting bogged down in internal bureaucracy, uses external changes as fuel.
And has a way to make good reversible decisions quickly, all supported by a culture where trying smart experiments is just normal.
The goal shifts, doesn't it? It's less about landing massive, perfect, infrequent launches and more about enabling lots of small, fast, intelligent experiments. Constant learning, constant adaptation, built right into the company's DNA.
Exactly. Which kind of leaves us with a final thought to chew on. Take a look around at the systems, the teams, the culture you operate in. Are they really set up for this kind of thoughtful, rapid action and learning? Or are they maybe, just maybe, designed more for, well, for stasis, for just keeping things ticking over, something to think about,